My younger sister's diary, in which she confessed her crush on the school's bad boy, was discovered. Under everyone's gaze, she tried to cover it up by saying it belonged to her older sister. Amidst the laughter, I admitted it in front of the school's bad boy. When I entered the classroom in the morning, I immediately sensed something was off. A group of people were gathered at the back of the classroom, chatting animatedly. Someone spotted me entering and shouted in a loud voice, "Xia Tang is here." Everyone turned to look at me. All eyes were on me. I frowned. What's going on? Luna stepped out of the crowd, looking worried, and wrapped her arm around mine. "Sis, you finally came. Your diary." I pulled my arm away and asked, "What diary?" Luna looked at the blackboard and hesitated. I followed her gaze. Several pieces of paper were taped to the blackboard. A cold wind blew in from the door, causing the papers to flutter left and right. Around us, people began to whisper maliciously. I never thought Xia Tang, the goody two-shoes, would like Lucas. Hey, don't you dare say that. Bookworms like bad boys the most. Look at her innocent face every day. Who knows how wild she is in private. Hearing these words, I didn't react much. But Luna's eyes turned red. She shouted at them, "Shut up. Liking someone isn't a crime. If you keep making noise, I'll tell Prof." After yelling, she pushed through the crowd. She tore down all the papers. Then she handed them to me. She cautiously glanced at my expression. "Sis, here you go. Don't be sad." I didn't take them. I looked down at the crumpled papers. The elegant handwriting was identical to mine. They were filled with sentimental and ambiguous love poems. Every word was heartfelt. And without exception, every poem began with "To Luke." Luke, that's so cheesy. Sis. Her soft voice snapped me back to reality. I clenched my fingers tightly and looked at Luna without any emotion. "Is this fun?" Luna froze, tears suddenly welling up at the corners of her eyes. "Sis. I know you're angry, but it's not my fault." She choked out, as if she had been wronged beyond measure. I remained unmoved. I sneered, "Whose diary is this? Who likes Lucas? You know the answer in your heart." Luna's expression froze for a moment. She probably didn't expect me to react this strongly. I've always been so submissive and never fought back before. Pierre, who was close to Luna, couldn't stand it anymore and stepped in front of Luna. "Xia Tang, enough is enough. It's not like Lulu posted your diary. Lulu was even defending you earlier. What, you dare say you don't like Lucas?" Instantly, the probing glances around me converged once more. Did you see Xia Tang's expression just now? She was so fierce. I've heard that Xia Tang is jealous of Luna, but I didn't expect her to act so blatantly. Speaking of which, are they really twins? Luna is so beautiful, while Xia Tang is completely different. Malicious whispers flooded into my ears. I lowered my eyes and dug my fingertips into the palm of my hand. It felt like I was back in that helpless situation 4 years ago. Like someone who had drowned, I was once again submerged in icy water. The suffocating sensation of drowning. Suddenly, a loud bang came from the front of the classroom. I looked over in confusion. It was the other protagonist of this farce, Lucas. The teenager stood at the front door, his hands in his pockets, facing away from the light. He kicked the table again with a look of anger on his face. "Try making more noise, you bastards." For a moment, everyone in the classroom fell silent. I looked back at Luna's tear-stained face. In the eerie silence around us, I spoke softly, "Yes, it's my diary. I like Lucas." After evening self-study, I went to the stall behind the school gate to sell grilled sausages as usual. The first batch was just done when Lucas arrived. He came here every night to buy a grilled sausage. But I thought he wouldn't come after what happened this morning. The dim light from the stall illuminated the arrogant yet handsome face of the teenager. He kept one hand in his pocket and spoke bluntly, "You like me?" My movements with the grilled sausage paused. After a moment, I murmured a soft yes. Lucas raised the corner of his eyebrow. "I don't like your type." His tone was lazy, neither admonishing nor warning. It seemed like he was just mentioning it offhand. I bit my lip and remained silent for a moment before saying, I know. Lucas was good-looking and came from a wealthy family. He was a playboy, carefree and irresponsible, a prominent figure at school. Such a person was also casual and careless in his relationships with women. The girlfriend of the school's most popular guy changed almost every month. Without exception. They were all slender-waisted, long-legged, coldly beautiful babes. Not someone like me, an ordinary bookworm. I once saw an art class senior pulling on Lucas's sleeve at the school gate, begging him to get back together. The teenager pulled away indifferently. His voice was cold. I've told you before, we're just using each other. This is a relationship that can end any time. Don't get emotionally involved. In the cold wind, the slender girl cried, tears streaming down her face. The tall teenager stood indifferently by, finally frowning and tossing his jacket to her. I packed the grilled sausage into a bag. I handed it to Lucas. $10, cash or scan. Lucas pulled out his phone and casually asked, price hike? I replied succinctly, yeah. The cold notification of the payment arriving sounded. Another customer approached. Owner, 2 skewers of grilled sausage, how much? I nodded, speaking gently, 2 skewers for $5. Lucas stood quietly by. After the customer left, he touched his chin. He laughed lazily, you only raised the price for me? Are you angry? It was already late autumn and the chilly wind blew occasionally, rustling the leaves of the camphor trees. I clenched my fingers, looked up, and stared straight into the teenager's dark eyes. Lucas, if you don't like me, don't tease me. Lucas froze for a moment. He seemed startled by my words. He raised his hand and touched the back of his neck. Does that count as teasing? I lowered my eyes. I like you, so every word and action of yours counts as teasing. An unreasonable reason. But Lucas heard it, and he left. Before leaving, he placed a box of chocolates on the table. Here's the candy you owed me last time. I opened the elegantly packaged box of chocolates. I tasted one. It was very sweet. Last Saturday evening, I ran into Lucas. At the time, he had just finished fighting with a group of people. He was covered in bruises, pale-faced, leaning against the narrow, damp alleyway. I knelt down in front of him. I asked, Lucas, did you lose the fight? He laughed angrily, glaring at me. I've never lost a fight in my life. After saying that, he closed his eyes again, furrowing his brows and breathing heavily. He didn't look like someone who had won a fight. His sweat-soaked bangs swept across his eyebrows, and the wounds on his forehead and lips were still bleeding. How did you end up like this? He half opened his eyes, his voice hoarse. Never seen low blood sugar before? Teacher's pet. Do you have any sugar? I rummaged through my bag. I should have some. A minute later, Lucas looked at the ginger candy in my palm and fell silent. Is this even candy? Of course it is. I unwrapped the candy and stuffed it into his mouth without hesitation. He frowned and tasted it for a moment. Then, with a weak voice, he commented, how can there be such terrible candy in this world? Eat it or not. After packing up, I went home. Opening the door, I heard the sounds of laughter and playful banter coming from inside. When they saw me enter, the mother and daughter who had been sitting on the sofa watching TV lowered their voices. I stood at the entrance. Luna leaned against my mother's shoulder. She shot me a disapproving glance, probably still upset about my morning excuse. My mother didn't look at me, continuing to knit her sweater. I saved some dinner for you. Go eat. I walked toward the dining table. Behind me, I heard Luna's coquettish voice. Mom, I want to buy a dress. You just bought 2 yesterday. Why do you want another one? My mom said in an exasperated but indulgent tone. The school sports meet is coming up soon, and I want to look pretty that day. Luna popped a grape into my mom's mouth. My mom was immediately charmed into smiling. I'll send you some money later, and you can pick one yourself. I walked to the dining table. There was a little bit of porridge left in the pot. The messy plate had half a fish tail left. Another plate had a few pieces of green pepper and some minced meat, barely recognizable as green pepper stir-fried with meat. I glanced at the vegetable strainer sitting nearby and said nothing. I dipped the cold porridge in the vegetable soup and drank it. After washing the dishes, I went back to my room to read. Before long, the door was opened from the outside. I told you so many times not to close the door. What are you afraid of, that someone will see you? My mom scolded me. I took a deep breath and said meekly, I know. My mom walked in through the door. Lulu said she's not good at math and the college entrance exam is coming up soon. She wants you to give her some extra lessons. She said it as if it were only natural. I don't have time. What do you mean you don't have time? My mom slapped the table and raised her voice. Lulu is your sister. How much time would it take to tutor her? I've had enough of being a doormat. I closed my book and looked at my mom. Is she less than 10 minutes younger than me? What kind of attitude is that? My mom exploded, spitting on my book. Forget it, Mom. Luna walked in from the door. You know my sister has always disliked me. What right does she have to dislike you? My mom was still furious, slamming the table so hard it shook. I felt like laughing. The two of them had once again labeled me with a few words. I left the house. Before I went, my mom told me to die outside. How cruel. I walked alone on the cold, desolate street, kicking pebbles with my toes. Ever since I can remember, Luna has been in poor health, constantly running to the hospital. My mom said it was because I took all the nutrients from her while I was in the womb, which is why she's always sick. So that's why my parents don't like me. At such a young age, I blamed myself and forgave my parents for their favoritism. Thinking of this, I pulled out my phone and swiped through it. I opened a short video account. It was Luna's account. Every video I randomly opened showed her vibrant and energetic photos. Although we were twins, Luna had always been more beautiful than me since we were little. She was lively and outgoing, while I was quiet and reserved. During family gatherings, relatives would always compare me to Luna. At that time, Luna was wearing a beautiful princess dress and playing the violin. I was hiding in the corner wearing a sweater with a loose thread. No matter how they compared us, the conclusion was always the same: we didn't look like twins at all. Occasionally, they would praise my academic performance. But my mother would rush to counter: if Lulu hadn't been sick, her grades might have been even better. I opened Luna's latest post. They were a few selfies she took in the classroom. They seemed casual, but in the background of each photo was the figure of a young boy. It was Lucas. In the background, he was either propping his head up and sleeping or twirling a pen out of boredom. In a few photos, the boy's sharp gaze was even fixed on the camera. These moments were captured in Luna's lens. They left behind a special photo. A cute and adorable girl and a handsome, rebellious boy. A few photos were enough to spark endless imagination. There were quite a few comments below, all from familiar accounts. Lucas seems to be sneaking a peek at you again. He must have a crush on you. Speaking of which, his ex-girlfriend looked a lot like Lulu. They were so perfect together. Hunk babe heart. Waiting for Lucas to confess. The author replied, "Oh, stop talking nonsense. Who would want to be with that player? I hate him the most." Accompanied by a cat with its paws crossed emoji. I raised an eyebrow and put away my phone. I walked into a restaurant. I occasionally come here to work part-time. After greeting the owner, I went to change into my work uniform. The supervisor pointed me to a private room to serve. I didn't expect Lucas to be inside. The door was slightly ajar. In the private room were Lucas and one of his friends. From my angle, I could only see their tall silhouettes. I recognized the other person. It was Ethan from my class. Ethan opened a bottle of beer with one hand. "I heard the top student in your class likes you." I froze. They were talking about me. Ethan leaned back and casually asked, "What do you think?" "Nothing." Lucas played with a metal lighter, his lazy, casual voice ringing in my ears. "I'm not interested in this teacher's pet, and besides, she looks hard to get rid of." Hearing this, I still didn't react. I opened the door and walked in. Lucas looked at me in surprise. "What are you doing here?" I picked up the beer bottle and poured some into his glass. My tone was casual. "Following you." Lucas froze for a moment, leaned back, and looked at me helplessly. "Don't waste your time. We can't be together." This seemed like sincere advice. I hummed in response, walked to the other side, and poured some beer into Ethan's glass. Ethan tilted his head, his almond-shaped eyes staring at me with a half-smile. "Pierre, have we met before?" I smiled politely and said softly, "I don't think so, sir. Can I have your contact information?" Lucas curled his fingers, tapping the table with his knuckles. "Ethan, enough is enough." Ethan raised his eyebrows slightly but didn't say anything else. Before leaving, I glanced at the lighter in Lucas's hand. Then I straightened the no smoking sign on the table and placed it in his direction. The private room door closed. Ethan couldn't help but laugh. "Luke, the top student in your class is pretty interesting." Lucas didn't say anything, staring at the sign for a moment. His fingers twitched, and the lighter was tossed into the trash can. Lucas hadn't come to buy grilled sausage for a week. He really didn't like me. We didn't talk to each other at school. Outside of school, we were connected by a daily grilled sausage. Now we were complete strangers. During the big break, we bumped into each other in the hallway. He looked indifferent, and I was holding a water cup as we passed by. I entered the classroom through the back door. I returned to my seat. A few people were gathered in front, talking loudly. "The flag bearer will definitely be Luna. She's the prettiest girl in our class." "Oh, stop talking nonsense. I wouldn't want to be the flag bearer, and besides, they choose based on grades in class 1. A soft female voice objected. "That's because the top student is also good-looking. The top student in our class." A few people exchanged glances in my direction. My younger sister kept quiet this time. I held my pen and wrote down the answer to the question in front of me without expression. The principal said that each class had to select one boy and one girl to hold the signs for the sports meet. Lucas had been the one to hold the sign in previous events. The discussion continued in front of me. "You and Lucas will be the handsome couple, and our class 2 will definitely be the most attractive. A hunk needs a babe to look good. Don't let the ugly duckling ruin the view." Lucas walked into the classroom at that moment. "Yengu, you'll be holding the sign with Luna this time." My pen paused. Amidst the commotion, a lazy voice came from behind me. "Whatever." I glanced over. Lucas picked up his jacket and left. The class erupted in cheers. I nodded slightly. I saw Luna pretending to be angry as she slapped the loudest boy, her cheeks already flushed. On the day of the sports meet, the class was already noisy early in the morning. I was holding a form, checking the items to be purchased for the sports meet. Emily walked over, looked at the candy on my desk, and seemed surprised. "Aren't you supposed to dislike candy?" I pulled out a few chocolates from my pocket. I smiled, "They're for others." "Who?" I didn't look up and said, "They're for those who need them." The teenager sitting diagonally behind me slowed down the pace of twirling his pen. He had overheard the conversation. Lucas stared intently at the girl's back. After a moment, he turned his head away. He acted as if nothing had happened, but his ears were slightly red. When the formation entered, I stood at the back of the line. Lucas, as usual, wore a well-fitted suit and walked forward confidently. The young man nodded slightly, his expression as arrogant as ever. Luna wore the backless dress my mom bought her and walked in high heels. She followed Lucas's steps lightly. The young girl had light makeup on, and her long hair fluttered in the warm sunlight. Those people were right, it was quite a sight to behold. After the event, I put on a red vest and stood under a sunshade next to the plastic running track. Lucas and Jason were the two boys from our class who signed up for the 2,000-meter race. Lucas was the first to cross the finish line. As soon as he crossed the line, a crowd gathered around him. "Yengu is so amazing." He left the second place far behind. "It seems like Class 2 will take first place again this year." I glanced over. The tall teenager stood in the crowd, with a bit of sweat on his forehead, but he wasn't breathing heavily. He took the bottled water handed to him and drank a few sips. When Jason crossed the finish line, I pushed through the crowd to meet him. He bent over, resting his hands on his knees, breathing heavily. "Are you okay?" I reached out my hand. He collapsed onto my shoulder, muttering, "I feel so dizzy." Jason was very skinny, with limbs as thin as bamboo poles. He had been forced to sign up for the race at the last minute. "Dizzy? Do you have low blood sugar?" I struggled to free my hand, pulled out a chocolate bar from my pocket, unwrapped it, and stuffed it into his mouth. "Let's go to the infirmary and check it out." Jason regained some strength, sat up straight, but his hand still rested on my shoulder. He lowered his head, his voice weak, "Thanks." While waiting for Jason to recover, I suddenly noticed something and looked up, locking eyes with a pair of cold, piercing eyes. Lucas narrowed his eyes, his dark pupils revealing no emotion. After taking Jason to the infirmary, I returned to the classroom alone. Lucas was waiting at the corner of the hallway. He crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. "Did you give the candy I gave you to someone else?" I reminded him, "You gave it to me." "So?" Lucas blocked my path like a bully. I bit my lip and remained silent for a moment before asking, "Are you angry?" "Angry? Why would I be angry?" I looked into his eyes and corrected him, "It's the tang from sea plum blossom." "Xia Tang, how long are you going to space out?" The teenager's dissatisfied voice carried a hint of coldness. My memories were interrupted. My pupils refocused. I saw Lucas's sour face. I paused, hesitating. "Are you here to pay for your friend?" "Pay for what?" He snorted. There weren't many people around at the moment, and the street was quiet. "Xia Tang, why have you never invited me before? Are you playing favorites?" I was taken aback. "Did you come all the way back just to ask that?" Lucas snorted coldly but didn't argue. I straightened my woolen hat and took out a bag from my bag. "Here, have this." "What's this?" It was supposed to be for the dog. Lucas's outstretched right hand froze midair. I saw the rose tattoo on his wrist. "What do you mean, you think I'm a dog?" He's so sensitive. "No, you're a human." I paused and said, "And dogs are pretty cute too." I don't know which words pleased the young master. Lucas finally took the bag, his ears turning red as he made a soft sound. When I got home that night, Luna brought a piece of cake into my room. "Sis, I saved this cake for you. Today is her 18th birthday. "Oh, it's mine too." "Thank you." After putting down the cake, she didn't hurry to leave. She reached out and flipped through the books on my desk. "Sis, can I borrow your math notes? I have a mock exam coming up." Last time she took my English notes, she returned them with only a few scraps of paper left. She said she accidentally tore them. I pulled out the math notes from the pile of books and handed them to her. Luna suppressed her smile. "Xia Tang, you're really good at pretending." The English notes were taken. I sat on the chair, quietly looking at the small piece of chocolate cake. That was during the summer vacation of my second year of junior high school. Luna was chatting happily with a boy from the school next door online. When school started, I was cornered by a group of girls in the bathroom. The leader was that boy's girlfriend. The girl yelled at me, calling me a homewrecker. Luna had used my name for her online relationship. Rumors spread quickly. The entire grade knew about my despicable act of being a homewrecker. She looked so innocent, but she was so disgusting. She must be so desperate to steal someone else's boyfriend. I'm sick of this. What's the point of being smart if your values are so twisted? Insults and disgusting glances came pouring in. I tried to explain and presented a complete chain of evidence. No one believed me. I was also accused of framing my own sister. Proving my innocence was a bottomless pit. Once you fell in, there was no way out. I took a week off school. My mom found out about it too. She said I was too young to be seducing men, that I was inherently despicable. At the time, Luna was leaning against my bedroom door, smiling triumphantly. "Sis, no one likes you anyway." It's better for everyone if you just disappear. Getting scolded a few times won't kill you. She spoke with such confidence and casualness. In my second year of high school, coincidentally, I was assigned to the same class as Luna again. When I first entered the class, I made 1 or 2 friends. Occasionally, someone would ask me for help with homework. I answered carefully. Luna couldn't stand it. She told the class that her older sister hated people with poor grades. She said it jokingly, as if she were just talking out of the blue. No one asked me questions anymore. But fortunately, apart from her few friends, the others just ignored me. After all, no one would hate someone so much that they would take it to heart. The next morning, Jason placed a bottle of milk on my desk. He clasped his hands together. "Thank you for saving my life yesterday, Xia owner." I glanced at the list and smiled. "You're welcome. Good luck with the high jump today." "Excuse me." The familiar cold, hoarse voice. Lucas pushed Jason aside and walked past me. "Call Lulu and ask her when she's coming back. My mom is applying a face mask on the sofa." "Got it." I put the bowl in the sink, wiped my hands, and took out my phone. Luna went to the class gathering after the sports meet tonight. The phone rang twice before being answered. "Mom asked when you're coming back." There was some noise on the other end. Luna lowered her voice. "I'll be back later. Don't call again unless it's urgent." "Luna, are you still going to drink the cup of wine with Yengu?" An unfamiliar teasing voice came through the receiver. Luna pouted. "Who wants to drink a cup of wine with that stinky guy?" The call ended. I stared at the dark phone screen for a long time. "Yengu, is that Lucas? Did you hear? Lucas got into a fight yesterday, and the homeroom teacher called him out early this morning." "Who doesn't know? They say it was because of the prom queen in the second year." Before I even entered the classroom in the morning, I heard a commotion inside. "Lucas, that player, just knows how to pick on babes." It was Luna's voice, sounding a little indignant. "All the babes have been taken. Ugh, I don't know what my sister sees in him." "Don't worry, your sister isn't a babe. Lucas wouldn't look at her." The topic turned to me again. After morning reading, I took the exercise books I had handed into the office. A beautiful girl stood at the office door, her eyes red. She must be the sophomore prom queen. She held a box of cookies in her hand and craned her neck to look inside. I stepped aside and went in. The homeroom teacher wasn't there, and Lucas was leaning against the wall. He was being punished, but he stood there lazily with his hands in his pockets. He wasn't wearing his school uniform. The zipper of his black hoodie was pulled all the way up, revealing only his sharp eyebrows and high nose bridge. The black tattoo on his right wrist was faintly visible. He looked careless and sloppy. When he saw me, he straightened up and raised his eyebrows slightly. "Why didn't you go to the stall last night?" I placed the exercise book on the desk. I looked at him without any emotion. There was a fresh cut on his brow, covered with a crooked band-aid. "I'm not going to sell anymore." He frowned. "Why?" "No reason." Lucas's tongue touched his cheek, and he laughed sarcastically. "Xia Tang, could you be any colder to me?" I turned and walked out. "Stop." He tried to stop me. "Senior." The girl's white fingers tugged at his shirt, her eyes red. He stopped in his tracks. I ran away. Behind me, I heard the teenager's irritated voice. "How many times do I have to tell you? I only fought because I had a grudge against them, not because I like you. I don't want any cookies." Lucas and I were in a cold war. It was one-sided. During lab class, he was the last one to arrive at the lab. There was only an empty seat next to me in the classroom. Lucas looked around, then left with a displeased expression. He wouldn't even sit next to me during class. It seems he's really angry. But why? Because I stopped selling snacks? Lucas doesn't like me, but Ethan keeps hanging around me every now and then. When we met at school, Ethan smiled and greeted me. Lucas always stood behind him, his face as dark as a pot bottom. On New Year's Eve, the music was blaring on the playground. I was alone in the makeup room, sorting and organizing the performance costumes. The door opened, and Ethan walked in. He was wearing a gray suit, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, his youthful arrogance only growing stronger. "Pierre, can you help me tie my tie? I have to go on stage soon." He held a smoky gray tie between his fingers and handed it to me. "I don't know how." I continued counting the performance costumes without looking up. "Also, the makeup room for class 1 is next door. It's simple, just like tying a red scarf." Ethan sat down on the chair next to me, ignoring the latter half of my sentence. I finally looked up at him. "Can't you tie a red scarf yourself, Pierre?" "No, I had a tutor teach me at home when I was in elementary school." Annoying rich people. I thought for a moment and took the tie. I tied a knot with my bare hands. "See clearly now? That's too careless. Can't you just tie it for me?" Ethan stood up in a hurry. Then he kicked the cabinet next to him. He sucked in a sharp breath and fell silent. I couldn't help but smile. "Does it hurt?" "No." He stamped his foot. "You're so stubborn." No sooner had the words left my mouth than the door opened again. It was Lucas. Ethan glanced sideways and whistled lewdly. "Here comes someone even more stubborn than me." Lucas crossed his arms and leaned against the doorframe. "Ethan, do you really want to die?" "No." Ethan left, not forgetting to give me a flirtatious glance before he went out. "Xia Pierre, help me tie my tie next time." The door opened and closed, and the dressing room fell silent again. The makeup mirror reflected the cold expression of the young man. He stood there, his eyes fixed on me and the tie Ethan had left behind. The glaring smoky gray color. He sneered, "You're really helpful, Xia Tang. You even helped out the first-year class." I casually placed the tie on the table. "I didn't tie it for him." "Does it matter?" He mockingly tugged at his lips. "You got close to Ethan pretty fast. What, do you like him now?" "Lucas, are you angry?" I asked him. This time, he didn't deny it or get angry. Lucas just stared at me in silence. I lowered my eyes and exhaled softly. "How did you hurt your hand? Did you get into a fight again?" There was a thin scar on the back of the teenager's pale hand. "It has nothing to do with you." He turned his head away, speaking coldly. "It does." I stepped forward and gently held his hand, pulling a band-aid out of my pocket with the other hand. Lucas didn't struggle, just lazily drooping his eyelids, letting me do as I pleased. After applying the band-aid, I still didn't let go of his hand. My fingertips gently traced over the band-aid. "Don't get hurt again. It'll make me sad." Lucas's dark pupils reflected my image. "Xia Tang." His Adam's apple bobbed. "Now you're teasing me." I was calm, looking up at him. "So, did I succeed?" Lucas's eyes grew cold as he stared at me for a long time. I agreed. My expression froze. Agreed to what? "Your pursuit." As the words fell, a commotion of footsteps sounded outside the door, accompanied by faint voices. "It's time for rehearsal. Hurry to the dressing room to change." "Hurry up, Prof is waiting." I opened the door and stepped out. The setting sun was golden, and I walked slowly forward, stepping on the faint afterglow. Lucas followed a few steps behind. We walked side by side in silence for a while. The melodious sound of a violin slowly filled the air. On the stage not far away, Luna was rehearsing. Lucas grabbed my wrist, and we stopped under a banyan tree. "Do you want me to repeat it?" The dense leaves hid the confusion in the teenager's eyes. I turned my wrist and held his hand. "Dating is fine, but we need to set some rules." Lucas frowned. "What 3 rules?" "It can't be public." "Why?" He had always been the type to make a big deal out of his relationships, wanting everyone to know. "We're still in school." That was a somewhat acceptable reason. Lucas reluctantly agreed. 2. No cheating. That's nonsense. What the hell do you think I am? I didn't say anything, just stared at him emotionlessly. Damn it. He was really angry. "If I cheat, I'll get hit by a car and die." "Don't be so dramatic. Just break up, and I won't bother you." "I mean what I say." He interlocked his fingers with mine and snorted coldly, "What about the third rule?" "The third rule." I paused for a moment and exhaled softly. "After we break up, we'll go our separate ways, like strangers." I wanted to tell him it was easy to let go. But Lucas's face darkened. He tightened his grip on my hand inch by inch. He laughed angrily, clenching his teeth. "Xia Tang, you want to break up before we even talked?" I bit my lip and explained, "I just tend to think ahead." "Then why didn't you think about us getting married?" He blurted out. A cold wind blew, rustling the leaves. Then Lucas was stunned, and so was I. The bright lights on the large playground ahead had already been turned on. A few classes were sparsely seated in the spectator seats. No one noticed our corner. We hid under the tree, at the edge of the bustling crowd. My heart was pounding wildly. I don't know how long it was. I broke free from his hand. "If you don't agree, then forget it." He sighed impatiently, "Wait." I looked at him. After a 2-second silence, he muttered a curse under his breath. Then he pulled out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. He quickly lit one and put it between his lips. With the other hand, he held the lighter, clicked it, and a blue-purple flame wrapped around the cigarette. "Lucas," I called out to him. He paused, lowering his eyes to look at me. We stared at each other in silence. The crimson glow in the corners of his eyes reflected into the teenager's eyes. He took the cigarette out of his mouth. A faint, crisp cracking sound echoed. The nicotine capsule at the tip of the cigarette was slowly crushed between his fingertips. He clenched his teeth, speaking slowly and deliberately, "Xia Tang, you better really like me." After the party ended, I sat in the passenger seat of Lin Jinhuan's car. Luna and my mom were in the back seat, excitedly discussing the photos they had just taken. They had come to watch Luna perform. I huddled in the passenger seat, staring out the window at the night scenery. Lin Jinhuan drove, glancing at me. "Xiao Tang, why didn't I see you today?" "My sister is in the logistics team," Luna answered for me. My mom was scrolling through her phone and snorted, "You're just born to be a servant." When we got home, I went into my room. After taking a shower, I sat at the desk doing my homework. The slightly open door was knocked on. Lin Jingxian walked in holding a plate of fruit. "Xiao Tang, eat the fruit and go to bed early. Staying up late is bad for your health." He patted my hand. I dodged his gesture, looked up, and met his honest, kind smile. I curved my eyes. "Thank you, Vincent." He left. I dumped the entire fruit plate into the trash can. Then, facing the trash can, I started vomiting uncontrollably. Lin Jixian is my stepfather. I was 12 when I caught him cheating. He was hugging a stranger's waist and entering a hotel. That night, at the dinner table, I told everyone what I had seen. When the coat hanger hit me along with the insults, I was dazed. My mother held the coat hanger and struck me repeatedly. While hitting me, she shouted angrily, "You're lying. You ungrateful brat. I'll beat you to death today. You even spread rumors about your father. How could I have raised such a debt-collecting monster?" Lin Jingxian sat beside us, watching coldly. He casually added, "Enough, the child doesn't understand. A few hits will teach him a lesson." My body curled up on the ground, crying until my throat was hoarse. Why? Why won't you believe me? My mother grew tired of beating me. Glancing at the time, she hurried out the door to pick up Luna from dance class. I lay face down on the ground as Lin Jingxian loomed over me. He bared his yellow teeth, his wrinkled face contorting into a repulsive grin. He said, "Xiao Tang, this time Dad won't blame you, but next time you mustn't break Dad's heart like this. Men are like that. You'll understand when you're older." The phone on the table rang twice. I grabbed a tissue to wipe my hands. It was Lucas calling. I answered. Neither of us spoke. I listened to the faint static on the other end. The dryness in my throat gradually subsided. After a brief silence, I spoke first. "Lucas, today is December 31st. Yeah, it's the first day of our relationship." His voice was clear and pure. "Xia Tang." He called me. "Huh? Happy New Year." The next second, a few muffled sounds came from outside the window. I looked out the window. Brilliant fireworks bloomed in the night sky. They scattered and turned into streaks of light. January 1st, 12 a.m. I touched the glass window with my fingers, reaching out to touch the fireworks in the sky. Lucas, Happy New Year. My relationship with Lucas was a bit different from what I had imagined. In the dimly lit empty classroom, the heavy curtains were tightly drawn, blocking out the light. The young man wrapped his arms around my waist, his voice hoarse. "Xia Tang, you dare to go back on your word? I've quit smoking for a month, and you want to get rid of me in 10 minutes? I bit my lip, still feeling the warmth of his breath. This guy is really unreasonable. Class is about to start. He didn't say anything. In the darkness, his warm hand rested on the back of my neck. Our breath mingled. Another 10 minutes passed. Lucas started spending more time in class. He sat in the back row, chewing on a lollipop. As I passed by, he would gently scratch my palm with his fingers. Our touch was brief. After teasing me, Song Xiaoyu closed his eyes and admired my reddened earlobes. He enjoyed playing this game endlessly. On the weekend, I was reading in a coffee shop. Lucas sat beside me playing a game. After a while, he lifted his chin and hummed softly. I picked up the chocolate on the table, unwrapped it, and fed it to him. He glanced at it, his fingertips tapping the screen non-stop. "It's ugly, I won't eat it." I stuffed the candy into my own mouth and picked out a nicer one for Song Xiaoyu. After reading for a while, I looked up and gazed into the distance. Someone was taking selfies outside the window. "What are you looking at?" Lucas turned off his phone and followed my gaze. A tall, beautiful girl was holding her phone up to the sunlight. I looked away. "It's your ex-girlfriend." He frowned, didn't look at the girl anymore, and stared straight at me. Then he reached out and rubbed my earlobe, his eyes dark and unclear. After a moment of silence, he said calmly, "Actually, I don't know them well. They're all actors I hired to prevent my father from arranging a marriage for me." He revealed this secret candidly. I took a sip of my drink and glanced at him. "All beautiful actors?" Lucas paused, then snapped back to reality. His handsome face flushed slightly, a rare sign of nervousness. "Ethan said hiring beautiful ones makes you look like a playboy who can't settle down." He paused before continuing in a lighter tone, "My dad doesn't like me much. Last year, a girl took a liking to me. Her family is wealthier than mine, and my dad was eager to marry me off to her." After saying that, he seemed at a loss for words, chuckling to himself before stopping. There was a moment of silence, and even their breathing grew lighter. "Xia Tang, I don't like a life that's been arranged for me. I don't want to marry someone I don't like." "So you're ruining your own reputation?" I flipped to a page and commented, "How childish." He curved his lips, as if relieved. He gently touched my earlobe. But it worked, those wealthy heiresses now avoid me like the plague. I lowered my eyes and didn't speak, opening my palm to reveal the words Lucas had just written, "Lucas's property." The handwriting was bold and sharp, just like him. Lucas couldn't stand my silence and forcefully pulled my hand away. The words on my palm were covered. He looked at me anxiously. "Really, I haven't even touched their hands. Go ask them if you don't believe me." I bit my tongue and gave him a crooked smile. "I know. I've always known." I even knew that after the performance, he would give each actor a generous sum of money. In other words, except for making Luna feel sick. I had originally approached him for that money as well. So no matter what, I've never had good intentions from the start. He shouldn't have said those things to me. I don't want to be the special one. Winter break. The snow-covered mountains were adorned in silver, and it seemed as though only one color existed between heaven and earth. I stood in the white expanse, feeling strange. Lucas put ear-muffs on me. "You idiot, don't you know it's cold?" He held me in his arms. Lucas said he came to see the snow every year, but this year he wanted me to accompany him. So we boarded a plane and flew thousands of miles across the city. I saw the first snow of my life. We stayed at a hotel halfway up the mountain. Probably due to the change in climate, I developed a low fever in the afternoon. It wasn't serious. Lucas made me some medicine and then I sent him away. I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already sunset. I checked my temperature, and the fever had subsided. I walked to the window. In the twilight, the contours of the distant mountains rose and fell. The snow-capped mountains connected with the dim sky, and the mountain slopes were shrouded in dusk. I sat quietly by the bed and watched. I don't know how long it was. There was a knock on the door. I got up to open it. Lucas was standing at the door. I bought you some oyster omelet. It's just been reheated. He held up the box in his hands, his voice hoarse. I was startled. Oyster omelet? I lowered my gaze, blurrily looking at the yellow takeout box. It seemed like I had mentioned it casually when I had a fever. But is there a place that sells oyster omelet around here? The hotel's floor heating was turned up high, and Lucas was only wearing a black hoodie. The corners of his eyes and the tip of his nose were red, and his half-dry bangs fell gently over his eyebrows. Where did you buy it? There's a restaurant at the foot of the mountain. I furrowed my brows. Didn't the tour guide say there were no buses in the afternoon? I walked there. His tone was unconcerned. I knew it. Your fever has gone down. I looked at him, my tone cold. Lucas, I'm not that hungry. You're so ungrateful. Lucas lowered his eyelashes, still carrying the lingering chill from the cold. This is the first time I've taken you out to play, and you got sick. Don't I feel guilty? He said it so matter-of-factly. I remained silent for 2 seconds before taking the lunchbox from his hand. Xia Tang, you're really heartless. He pinched my cheek. The icy coldness of his fingers made me shiver. But I didn't dodge. Lucas pulled his lips into a smile. I tiptoed and pressed the warm water bottle against his neck. I said expressionlessly, freeze to death. The smile in his eyes deepened as he leaned in closer. Your lips are cold. Give me a kiss. The day before we left, we entered a souvenir shop. Get this for me. Lucas pointed to a wooden box on the shelf. Inside lay a pair of silver rings. The design was simple, with the shape of the snow-capped mountain beneath us engraved on the band. I looked at Lucas, who was dressed in luxury brands, with a complicated expression. I glanced at the price of the rings. $66, averaging $33 each. I heard that even among the elite, there's a hierarchy of disdain. Jewelry symbolizes the voice of the privileged. Is his voice a bit too cheap? I hesitated but couldn't resist. Maybe, let's look at something else. Lucas wasn't happy. Xia Tang, is it my birthday or yours? All right, the birthday boy gets his way. I paid without complaint. As we left the store, light snow fell on our heads. Lucas slipped the thin ring onto my right hand, and he wore his on his left. Our fingers intertwined, and the 2 rings touched. In the snow-covered landscape, he held my hand and walked slowly forward. Lucas. He stopped. Happy 18th birthday. He paused, then laughed twice. Can't you say something nicer, you big nerd? I lowered my eyes, half my face buried in the scarf. Lucas, I hope everything you want comes easily to you. The plane landed the next evening. Lucas drove me home. After arriving home, I didn't go out again. My mom and Lin Jixin took Luna on a trip to the north this year. There was no one else at home. After taking a shower in the evening, I opened my phone. Lucas posted on his friend's circle. A grid of photos of snow-capped mountains. The middle one was a photo of our shadows in the snow. The caption was overly sentimental, stay with me year after year. Less than half an hour later, Luna's short video account was updated as well. Also photos of snow. The caption read, stay with you day and night. It matched Lucas' post perfectly. The comments below were as usual. Could they be announcing something official? Speaking of which, Lucas doesn't have a girlfriend lately. Could he be chasing after a blogger? Evil laugh, evil laugh. They're totally into each other. Luna didn't reply to any of them. She pinned her own comment at the top, I took this myself. Someone else took it and it looks terrible. Why would they post it on Friends Circle? Humph. Just as I was looking at it, the phone rang. I answered it. Lucas's lazy voice came through. Want me to take you out tomorrow? No, I haven't finished my homework yet. I politely declined. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Xia Tang, who's more important to you, me or your homework? Homework. The person on the other end didn't seem upset, just laughed quietly. So I'm second? I scratched my ear and mumbled an unclear What? Lucas dragged out his words lazily, and I couldn't hear him. There's also my vocabulary book, my mistake notebook, and the practice test book. I said, you're fifth. All right, at least I'm in the top 5. He laughed again, sounding careless. That's not fair, baby. You're number 1 in my heart. He really liked saying those kinds of things, without blushing or getting flustered. I cleared my throat, my cheeks burning. I'm tired. After hanging up, I lay in bed, feeling a headache coming on. Is this what dating is like? It's way too sappy. The next evening, while I was doing my homework, Lucas sent me another message. It was a few photos he took while hiking today. I opened the voice message he sent. His voice was clear and crisp, mingled with the sound of the wind. There were too many people on the mountain. Someone stepped on my foot, so I had to take the cable car up. The view was still nice. We should come together someday. I replied, okay, the photos are beautiful. After finishing 2 sets of practice papers, I opened my phone. Lucas hadn't replied. I bit my lip and opened the voice message again. After listening to it twice, I typed, how's your foot? He replied immediately. It hurts a little. I put down my phone and rubbed my temples wearily. Dating is harder than exams. Lucas is harder to deal with than complicated problems. He's too clingy, and I'm not used to it. Fortunately, winter break passed quickly. When the new semester started, all entertainment events for seniors were cancelled. The atmosphere in the class was thick with exam preparation. Everyone was like soldiers about to go into battle, ready for action. Even Luna and her friends stopped teasing me. Only Lucas remained unchanged, still clingy as ever. During the scattered holidays of senior year, he chose quieter places like coffee shops or libraries for our dates. I did my homework, and he sat beside me quietly drawing little figures with a pen. Afterward, he would give me the drawings. Sticky but considerate. Time flew by under the high pressure. On the day of the college entrance exam, it was raining lightly. Lucas held the umbrella and walked ahead of me. His steps were quick. After walking a distance, he stopped and closed the umbrella. I caught up and held the umbrella high to shield him from the rain. You'll catch a cold if you get wet. Don't be angry, that boy just asked me 2 exam questions. I patiently explained. Lucas took the umbrella with a cold expression. He took my hand and walked forward. We entered a tattoo shop at the corner of the street. There were no customers in the shop. The man with the big beard was the owner of the shop. Lucas took off his jacket and introduced me. The man with the full beard seemed to have known we were coming and nodded politely at me. I scanned the shop's decor before cautiously looking at Lucas. Are you here to get a tattoo? Lucas leaned back lazily on the leather sofa, flipping through a photo album. He was still holding a grudge and gave me a sidelong glance. Or did you bring me here to eat? Me. After my strong objections, Lucas finally gave up on tattooing my name. He changed it to Gamma Lambda Upsilon Kappa, Phi Iota Lambda Omicron, Greek for sweet tooth. It would be tattooed on the inner side of my left wrist. As the bearded man began disinfecting the skin, Lucas wrapped his other arm around my waist. He buried his face in my lower abdomen, humming softly. I dared not look. I stroked his hair to comfort him. It's okay. The young apprentice stood by, looking confused. Yen Gu, weren't you completely? Cough. The bearded man suddenly coughed twice, cutting off the apprentice's words. Go upstairs with me to get the paint. The bearded man gave him a meaningful glance. The shop was suddenly left with only me and Lucas. I blinked slowly, still dazed. Before I could think clearly, the pressure on my waist suddenly tightened. Xia Tang. What if it hurts? His voice trembled. Under the warm yellow light, a row of silver needles on the workbench glinted coldly. My chest felt tight. It's going to hurt, isn't it? I clenched my fingers and pulled out a piece of candy from my pocket. I opened the wrapper and whispered, "Here, have some candy. I brought a lot. If it hurts, I'll give you one." Lucas put the candy in his mouth, tilted his head, and hugged me tighter. He rubbed against me, and a muffled laugh escaped his throat. "Can I bite you if it hurts?" "Me. You can bite yourself." The day of the farewell banquet. The private room of the restaurant was filled with chatter. I sat in the corner. The college entrance exam was like a wall of fire. Once you crossed it, everyone had a chance to rise from the ashes. It had been half a month since we last saw each other. Everyone in the class had changed completely. Colorful hair, fashionable outfits, and faces radiating a sense of relief. I went to the restroom. In the stall, I sent Lucas a message apologizing. He was angry because I refused to sit with him. In the empty hallway, he suppressed his anger. Gritting his teeth, he said, "Xia Tang, you still don't want to go public. What's your excuse this time?" I didn't say anything. Lucas couldn't stand my silence. So, not long after the food arrived, he stormed out. He didn't give anyone any face. Lucas didn't reply to me. "Hey, did you see how beautiful Xia Tang has become? She must have gotten makeup done." No, you're too superficial. It's the power of love. I saw her with Lucas at the mall the other day. Is that true? Are you sure you didn't see wrong? I'm definitely not mistaken. They were holding hands. The whispers outside gradually faded away. I pushed open the door. Standing at the sink, looking at the person in the mirror. My eyes were round, lightly made up, and the freckles on both sides of my cheeks were a bit lighter. Only now could I see how much my eyebrows and eyes resembled Luna's. After the farewell banquet, everyone was waiting at the restaurant entrance. Lucas had returned at some point. He stood at the back of the crowd. I turned around to look at him. The tall, slender teenager hung his head, arms crossed, leaning against a pillar alone. I shifted my feet and walked toward him. But before I could get close, someone beat me to it. Luna stood in front of him, chin held high. "Lucas, which city did you apply to for university? Your grades are poor, so I can help you choose one." The girl spoke boldly, with a touch of awkward shyness. Lucas slowly lifted his eyelids and stared at her for 2 seconds. Then he coldly said, "None of your business." The annoyance in his tone was obvious. Luna's smile faltered. She forced herself to maintain her composure. "I'm just concerned about the underachievers." "What's your attitude?" I clenched my teeth and didn't look at him anymore. As I was about to step back, someone tapped me on the shoulder from behind. "Xia Tang." I turned around and saw Jason. I furrowed my brows. "What's up?" The young boy stood in front of me, scratching his head awkwardly. "I called a car. Can I give you a ride home?" I was taken aback. His voice was loud enough for several people nearby to hear. Teasing remarks immediately filled the air. "Oh my, Jason didn't notice, did he? Why are you taking Xia Tang home alone? Aren't we good enough for you? I thought something was off about you at the sports meet last time, but you wouldn't admit it." Jason blushed. "Hey, stop talking nonsense. I was just going the same way." I licked my lips, but before I could speak, my waist was suddenly wrapped in an arm. The familiar pressure sent a shiver down my spine. In an instant, Jason's expression froze on his face. The noise around us faded away. In the eerie silence, Lucas's hand on my waist tightened inch by inch. "Sorry, dude," he said with a smile, but his voice was as cold as ice. "I can take my girlfriend home myself." Everyone stared at each other, no one daring to speak. In the suffocating silence, Lucas laughed. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers toward the darkness. A loud roar erupted. A black Kian approached from the distance and stopped in front of the crowd. Everyone snapped back to reality. Shouts of surprise erupted. Damn it, I knew I wasn't seeing things. He's crazy. Lucas said Xiatang is his girlfriend. Am I still asleep? Isn't he supposed to be with Luna? Luna stood in the crowd, her face pale. Finally, under the stunned gazes of the crowd, Lucas forcefully pulled me into the car. Before getting in, I glanced back. Luna stood there in a white dress. She glared at me with hatred, her beautiful features almost twisted. Under the old residential building, Lucas pressed me against the tree, holding my chin and kissing me. His movements were fierce, and the punishing kiss left me breathless. I wanted to bite him, but stopped at the last moment, trembling as I reached out to touch his face. It seemed that this small gesture pleased him. Lucas finally let go of me. Under the moonlight, we embraced each other. The sound of cicadas mingled with heavy breathing. After a moment, I pushed him away. You shouldn't have said I'm your girlfriend. Lucas's face darkened. I didn't say it, and then I watched you get into someone else's car? I wouldn't get into his car. Those words clearly weren't enough to calm Lucas down. Xiatang. He looked at me, his eyes filled with emotion. Am I being too lenient with you? I turned away. You always do whatever you want. Yes, I do whatever I want. Lucas laughed coldly. In your eyes, I'm just a playboy. You think dating me is embarrassing, right, Xiatang? That's not it. I just want to talk to you. He spoke harshly. Talk to me? Who's going to talk to you? Do I look like someone who listens to reason? I couldn't argue with him. Taking a deep breath, my throat felt dry. Then think whatever you want. The summer night breeze was hot and sticky. The slender teenager stood before me, his eyes red and wet. He didn't even want to argue. Xiatang, you just like seeing me act like a madman. We parted on bad terms. After Lucas left, I sat on the bench in the neighborhood for a long time before going upstairs. My mother was sitting in the living room, giving me a sideways glance. I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. I walked into the room. Sure enough, it was a mess. Luna was still pulling at the curtains on my bed. Sis, I lost something. Let me look for it here. I entered the room, closed the door behind me, and blocked out the sound. Luna dropped her fake expression. She walked over and yanked the pearl hairpin off my head. She sneered. This was from Lucas, wasn't it? I knew you wouldn't buy something like this. She glared at me with hatred. I shrugged indifferently. If you like it, you can have it. Luna's expression twisted in anger. You slut! What tricks did you use to make Lucas fall for you? I watched her rage-filled expression. I spoke calmly. What if I said it was because of your diary? I knew it! I knew it! Luna was so enraged she lost her mind, sweeping everything off my desk onto the floor. If it weren't for the diary, he would never have noticed you. You slut, you deceived him. She seemed to have forgotten who had once pinned the diary on my head. I moved out of the house. I found a job that provided room and board. Lucas didn't come looking for me for over half a month. Occasionally, I could see his figure in Ethan's friend circle. Golf courses, upscale bars, luxury cruise ships. Lucas's life was luxurious and opulent. It was something I could never achieve no matter how hard I tried. Xiatang, if I don't look for you, you won't look for me either. When Lucas sent me the message, I was standing outside the IELTS exam hall. It was always me who had to comfort him. But when he feels wronged, he twists the truth like that. After the exam, I walked out of the testing center. A black SUV was parked outside. Lucas was leaning against the car door. He was wearing a black t-shirt, and his eyes were filled with the familiar coldness. I checked my phone. It hadn't been long since I posted my location on Friend Circle. Lucas had one hand in his pocket and the other holding a cigarette. He hadn't lit it, it was just between his fingers. He looked at me coldly as I approached. We stood face to face, neither of us speaking. I licked my dry lips and broke the silence. You're not quitting smoking? He smiled slightly, waving the cigarette in his hand, and said casually, anyway, I don't need to kiss you anymore. I froze, unconsciously tightening my grip on the shoulder strap of my backpack. What about you? I blinked. Are you breaking up with me? Lucas frowned. Why are you asking so many questions? Do I look like I have nothing better to do? I'm sorry. He looked past me. At the students entering and exiting the school gate. Why are you taking the IELTS exam? My fingers trembled slightly. Just taking it for fun. Lucas stared at me for a moment before finally saying nothing. I got into Lucas's car. He didn't hurry to start the engine. His fingertips tapped the steering wheel. Xia Tang, do you want me to teach you how to comfort someone? I pulled the seatbelt halfway and looked at him blankly. Come here and kiss me. He said. All right. My face grew hot. In the cramped space of the passenger seat, I struggled to sit up and lean toward him. Lucas cooperated by turning his head slightly. But just as our breaths mingled, he pulled away. The kiss landed on my neck, an inch to the right of his sharp Adam's apple. I froze. In an instant, Lucas's breathing became irregular. The temperature inside the car rose. I snapped back to reality and pulled away. Lucas closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, his dark pupils were shrouded in a hazy mist. That's enough. I stiffly looked away. He didn't say anything and got out of the car. A moment later, the passenger door was opened from the outside. Light poured in. I looked up in confusion. Lucas towered over me. He leaned down and gripped my wrist with one hand. The next second, a kiss filled with restlessness landed on the side of my neck. Half of my body went numb, and my ears rang. My heart trembled. A different feeling. Lucas. I let out a soft gasp. It tickles. He finally let go of me. The passenger door closed again. I looked at the rearview mirror and saw a small red mark on my neck. Lucas sat back in the driver's seat. He met my gaze in the rearview mirror and raised his eyebrows. Tit for tat. Lucas and I made up like that. He drove me home. I didn't tell him I had moved out of my parents' house. The car stopped at the entrance of the residential complex. After the car drove away, I slowly walked in the opposite direction. The next day, Lucas took me to an amusement park. In the themed store, he dressed me up in a fluffy outfit. I had rabbit ears on my head, a small bear bag slung over my shoulder, and 2 fluffy squirrels in my hands. Ignoring my protesting gaze, Lucas excitedly took photos of me. When it was time to pay, he suddenly stopped. He looked at a certain spot on the shelf, his eyes deepening. It was a fluffy choker with a silver bell hanging from the center. It seemed to match the rabbit ears on my head. I cleared my throat, and the skin on my neck began to burn. This won't do. He pulled his gaze away and made a dismissive sound. You're so stingy, Xia Tang. After we made up, Lucas became even more clingy. I felt even more at a loss. Fortunately, our school started early. On the first day of school, Lucas sent me to school. Downstairs in front of the dormitory, he hugged me and buried his head in my neck. He looked very upset. This is so annoying. I'll buy a house, and you can move in with me. I patted his back. It's okay, our schools are close by, and we can still see each other often. After sending Lucas off, I went upstairs and bumped into Luna. What a small world, she also got into this school. She glared at me with malice. Xia Tang, you won't be gloating for long. I'll make sure Lucas knows what you're really like. I nodded. Fine, we'll see. Freshman military training came quickly. The summer heat was oppressive, and the cicadas were buzzing loudly. Standing on the playground, it felt like my lungs were on fire. When Lucas arrived, I was standing at attention. He wore a plain black t-shirt and a baseball cap. His arms were crossed, and he stood neatly in the corner of the playground. Like a cold, stern north wind. With a chill in the air. After the drill ended, I ran over to him. You've been waiting a long time, haven't you? Yes, it's been a long time, and it's hot. He took the half-empty bottle of mineral water from my hand, twisted off the cap, and took a few sips. I turned on the small fan and blew the breeze toward him. Didn't you say you weren't coming? He didn't answer, lowering his head and leaning against my shoulder. It was supposed to be my military training, yet he looked exhausted. He seemed to have lost some weight. The house is bought. You should go and check out of the dorm in a few days, he said. The summer heat surged back, making everyone feel restless and irritable. I pushed him away. I looked at him coldly. Lucas, I clearly said it's not allowed. Seeing my expression, Lucas's face also turned cold. Why not? Every time I come to find you, you're either busy with this or that, always have something to do, always have an excuse to refuse. We haven't seen each other once this week. He grew angrier as he spoke, clenching his teeth. Xia Tang, you don't want to see me at all, do you? He hit the nail on the head. The assembly whistle sounded. I put my hat back on. I won't move out. After tossing those words over my shoulder, I ran off. When I returned to the group, I looked over the crowd. Lucas was already gone. My fingers curled into a fist inch by inch. I couldn't continue like this. Back in the dormitory, I calculated the money. The luxury items Lucas had given me could fetch a good price. Enough for me to make a choice. After that day, I didn't go looking for Lucas. He didn't come looking for me either. Looking at his social media, it seemed like he had started a small company. He was traveling all over the place. Half a month later, on the night of the frost's descent, Lucas's location returned to North City. How long are you going to be angry? I looked at the message and took a deep breath. Typing. Lucas, you didn't apologize. He replied quickly. Lucas, all right, where are you? At a noodle shop. With who? Peer. Male or female? I glanced at my roommate beside me. I replied, male. I did it on purpose to provoke him. He was typing for a long time. Xia Tang, you've got some guts. I turned off my phone and ate seriously. But I didn't expect him to come so quickly. As I walked out of the noodle shop with my two roommates, we bumped into Lucas head-on. He was standing behind a pure black motorcycle, having taken off his helmet. The air carried a faint chill of early autumn. He held the helmet in his arms and glared at me coldly. The lie was exposed. My two roommates, holding hands, wisely returned to the dormitory. Was he intentionally trying to provoke me? Lucas walked over and reached out to grab my hand. I dodged him, and the hem of my shirt brushed against his knuckles. He curled his fingers slightly, his fingertips gently grazing mine. We stood at a distance, neither too close nor too far. He withdrew his hand and raised his eyebrows slightly. You really don't want to live with me? Lucas, the point isn't that. Lucas knew the point wasn't that, but he just wanted me to deny it. What he cared about most. Not living together is fine. Lucas's tongue touched his cheek, his tone flat. We bought 2 houses. We'll be neighbors, minding our own business. I stayed silent for 2 seconds, lowering my eyes. Lucas, let's break up. The neon lights of the shop behind us flickered, alternately bright and dim. There was no rage as I had imagined. Lucas's dark eyes fixed on me. Reason. I licked my lips. You're too controlling, always acting without considering my feelings. Look at me. He tilted his chin slightly and continued. Look me in the eyes. My resolve weakened. I swallowed hard. Your temper is too. A bit bad. I'm always catering to your emotions. I'm so tired. Hearing this, Lucas's expression finally changed. His thick black eyelashes trembled, and his hair fell down. I'll change. I paused for a moment, then shook my head. You can't change. You can't even quit smoking properly. I can change. He pulled out a brand new pack of cigarettes and a lighter from his pocket. He raised his wrist and tossed everything into the trash can beside him. I can change. He looked at me again, the corners of his eyes tinged with red. It was the first time I had ever seen Lucas like this. Defeated, shattered, like a glass doll with cracks. He bent his back and carefully pulled at the hem of my shirt. I can change, Xia Tang, don't abandon me, please. We didn't break up. We got back together, and I kind of regretted it. Lucas's small company was pretty busy. After that night, he didn't insist on meeting up anymore. He kept sending me a lot of messages. "Baby, I signed a big deal yesterday. We'll make a lot of money. Are you busy lately? My friend opened a Western restaurant. The food should suit your taste." He was beating around the bush. He wanted to see me. But he needed to be more considerate. He was learning how to be gentle, but he was clumsy at it. I put down my phone and exhaled deeply. Last week, Song's mother came to see me. I met that elegant and refined woman. We had a fairly pleasant conversation. The money she gave me was a lot, and I couldn't refuse. I now had more options. So I took the card. On the weekend, I invited Lucas to dinner. In the private room, I sat alone. I ordered a few dishes Lucas likes and set the table. But I didn't expect Luna to arrive first. "Sis, you know that diary was mine. You know I like Lucas. What did I do wrong? Why are you treating me like this?" Luna walked in, threw her bag on the ground, and cried while accusing me of my sins. The water in the cup was swaying. I silently watched her perform. 2 seconds later, I burst into laughter. "Because I hate you, Luna. Can't I seek revenge? It was you who pinned the diary on me in the first place." I was just going with the flow. Luna's face turned awkward for a moment. "But no matter what, Lucas is innocent. You're still so good at dodging the real issue." I propped my head up with one hand and said casually, "So what? Lucas comes from a wealthy family and is good-looking. It's just a game, right?" The moment the last word fell, the door slammed open from the outside. "Lucas!" Luna called out. Even though I had expected it, my heart still skipped a beat. Lucas appeared at the door, his whole body emanating a cold aura, his face dark and gloomy. I didn't know how long he had been listening. Luna hurriedly moved closer to Lucas. "Lucas, I told you Xia Tang was lying to you. It was all to get back at me. Even though she's my sister, I couldn't bear to see you being deceived. And I truly like you." Luna's face flushed red. "Get out." "What? What?" Luna's expression froze on her face. Lucas closed his eyes, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. In his right hand was a bouquet of roses, presumably meant for me. He repeated each word slowly. "I told you to get out." Luna ran out crying. The private room fell silent. I remained seated. Lucas stood behind me. I couldn't see him, but I could feel his cold gaze, as if it were tangible, almost choking my neck. I lowered my eyes and reached for the water glass on the table. I tried to bring it to my lips, but realized my hands were shaking uncontrollably. Most of the water spilled out. The atmosphere was oppressively silent. It felt as though something was slowly breaking apart. Lucas sat down beside me. On the table lay a pack of cigarettes and a lighter. And a small peace knot. Lucas had given it to me, saying it was something he wore as a child, hoping it would bring me safety and health. Lucas looked at the items before him and gave a brief, short laugh. My meaning was clear. He picked up the cigarette pack and tore open the wrapper. A series of movements followed without pause. The metal lighter clicked a few times before finally igniting the cigarette. The crimson light flickered. He smoked fiercely. The smoke swirled violently through his lungs before being exhaled as a thin wisp of white mist. The mist blurred the sharp features of the young man's face and the reddened corners of his eyes. I lowered my eyes. I saw the bouquet of roses he had brought, elegantly wrapped. Now it lay carelessly on the ground. Red petals scattered listlessly. A surreal scene. "Let's eat." Lucas extinguished his cigarette, his voice hoarse. I dug my fingertips into my palm, struggling to suppress the tremor in my voice. "You heard me." The veins on his temples bulged. He picked up his chopsticks and served me a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs. His tone was calm. Let's eat. The food will get cold." I bit down hard on my tongue, the taste of blood spreading in my mouth. "Lucas, can we break up now?" Those words were like a spark thrown into a pile of dry grass. In an instant, a raging fire erupted. It consumed all traces of calm. Lucas smashed all the bowls and chopsticks on the table to the ground. Several shards of broken porcelain flew to my feet. Lucas stood amidst the chaos. The flickering lights above his head cast sharp shadows on his features. I lowered my eyes, motionless. I didn't know how long it had been. Lucas suddenly bent down, picked up a shard of porcelain, and clenched it in his palm. The shard cut into his skin, and crimson blood trickled out between his fingers. As if he had lost all sensation of pain, his eyes fixed on me without blinking. Then he extended his hand toward me. His throat was so hoarse it sounded like he was crying out in pain. "Xiatang, I'm bleeding. It hurts." I didn't speak, but he stubbornly kept his hand out. He choked out, repeating, "It hurts. Xiatang." A drop of blood fell from his knuckles onto my wrist. I trembled slightly and wiped the blood away with my sleeve. The room fell silent. Lucas suddenly smiled, his eyes red and wet. It was a smile filled with mockery and sorrow. "Xiatang, your acting is really fucking good. Yeah, I've acted enough. I'll let you go." I stood up to leave. But my wrist was tightly gripped. Lucas pulled me into his arms with such force it felt like he wanted to merge me into his very being. He spoke urgently, "I don't care at all about that stupid diary. Just apologize to me, and I'll pretend it never happened, and we'll be just like before. Xiatang, apologize to me." He wanted me to apologize, yet he was sobbing uncontrollably. Warm tears fell onto my neck. I tilted my head back, staring at the glaring white light on the ceiling. The sound of a teenager's choked sobs echoed in my ears. After a moment, I heard my own voice. "Lucas, you're so stupid. How could I possibly like someone like you?" I said such harsh words. Before leaving, Lucas stood under the warm yellow light, his eyes red with bloodshot veins. He said, "Xiatang, I will definitely get revenge on you." I returned to my hometown. When I was a child, I lived alone with Granny for several years. When I arrived, the old woman was wearing a straw hat, sitting in the courtyard picking peanuts. "What are you doing here?" She glared at me. I said, "I got into university." "What good is that? A girl studying so much, she'd be better off getting married and having a son. When I was your age, I already had a son." The old woman looked down on me, her wrinkles bunching together. The son she spoke of was my biological father. He had been in prison for 3 years. "You're not here to ask me for money, are you?" The old woman suddenly raised her voice. "I don't have any money. I spent it all on a grave. All I have left is this gold bracelet. Don't even think about taking that bracelet. I'm saving it for my son." She put down the peanut seedlings, her withered fingers covering the bracelet on her wrist, glaring at me warily. "I'm going to a very far place. I managed to speak in the local dialect. Grandma, I might not come back." The old woman picked up the peanut seedlings again. "If you don't come back, that's your business. What does it have to do with me?" The old woman didn't chase me away. She cooked some porridge for me and added 2 eggs. The next morning, I slipped a stack of money under the old, moldy pillow. I left quietly. I got on the bus, opened the window, and instinctively reached into my pocket. Suddenly, I felt something cold. I froze and pulled it out. It was the gold bracelet the old woman had intended for her son. There were some black stains on it, and it looked dull and gray. The wind blew in through the window, blurring my vision. I wrote an email to Lin Jinhuan's company reporting him for taking bribes. Then I went back home and watched him being taken away in a police car. On the day I went to the airport, the weather was sunny and clear, and the road was smooth. While waiting in line for security, my phone rang. I answered it. "Xiatang, don't go up." Lucas's hoarse voice was accompanied by static. Feeling something, I turned to look. Sure enough. The young man stood tall and straight in the crowd. He looked at me pleadingly, his eyes red and wet, as if he might cry at any moment. I spoke softly, "Lucas, let's part ways amicably." Life in England was quite fulfilling, with a busy academic schedule. The person I shared an apartment with was also a Chinese girl. Her name was Grace, lively and cheerful, and we became good friends. It was a strange environment with a foreign language. Other than that, nothing much had changed. After class, I liked to stay in my apartment and study recipes. Since I couldn't cook in the apartment, I found a part-time job at a Chinese restaurant. Cece always said I was too boring and should enjoy life more. So I did make some changes and made a lot of friends. Occasionally, I would go to their parties. People of all different backgrounds would sit together and chat about everything under the sun. I just sat there quietly listening. They always said they were grateful to me, that I was the best listener in the world. In my 3rd year in the UK, a younger classmate confessed his feelings to me. We were from the same hometown, both from Lucheng. He pursued me quite aggressively. He sent flowers, diamonds, and bags. He even gave me a fireworks display on New Year's Eve. My friends were all moved to tears. But I remained unmoved. The junior was very discouraged and asked me with a sad face, "Senior, why are you always so cold? Have you ever liked anyone? Have you ever liked anyone?" Under the fireworks, a figure flashed before my eyes, full of vitality. That night, I stood on the balcony of my apartment for a long time. I never thought I liked Lucas. Maybe there was a moment of weakness, but it wasn't enough. But when I think back on all those years, the first thing that comes to mind isn't the disdainful looks and insulting words from others. It's Lucas's dark eyes. I returned to the country 8 years later. "Tang Tang, wait for me at the airport entrance, I'll pick you up." As soon as I got off the plane, Cece's call came through. "No need, workaholic. You rest." I smiled and refused. "I've booked a hotel nearby. I'll go to the office tomorrow." I carried my luggage to the hotel. I pressed the elevator button. The elevator doors slowly opened before me. The elevator cabin of the upscale hotel was bright and spacious. Everything inside was clearly visible. A tall man stood alone inside. He was dressed in black casual attire, wearing a hat and a mask, fully covered. His arms were crossed, leaning lazily against the corner. Upon hearing the sound, he raised his eyes and looked over. Upon seeing me, he calmly shifted his gaze away, showing no emotion. I, however, froze in place. Lucas. People are indeed strange creatures. 8 years had passed, yet I could recognize him just by looking into his eyes. I stepped into the elevator. I stood in another corner. I tried to keep as much distance between us as possible in this confined space. Several floors. The man stood by the buttons, his voice flat. I said, "9th floor." Lucas didn't recognize me, or perhaps he simply didn't remember me. The mirror beside me reflected my appearance. I wasn't wearing any makeup, my long hair was simply tied back, with a few strands falling down. The UV rays in England aren't strong. My skin was a bit fairer, and the freckles on both sides of my cheeks were lighter. I couldn't say how much I had changed. Compared to 8 years ago, I was clearly a different person. The next day at noon, I moved out of the hotel. Cece drove to pick me up. She had returned to the country a year before me. She started a new media company, and I'm a partner. Charity dinner. The ballroom was lavishly decorated, with soothing piano music playing in the background. There weren't many media outlets at the dinner. I hid in a corner, adjusting the camera in my hands. "Oh, Prof. Song is here too. I'm a fan of his." Assistant Xiao Wang stood beside me and suddenly exclaimed excitedly. "Who?" I didn't even look up and asked casually. "Xiao Tang, don't you know Lucas Song? He's very famous." I couldn't hear the rest of what he said. I looked over in shock. A tall man stood not far away, very noticeable. I saw Lucas as he would be 8 years later. He was wearing a black tailored suit, having shed his youthful innocence, with more defined facial features. His demeanor was mature and reserved. The man had gentle features and was chatting with the people around him. The world is indeed small. A girl walked past us. She walked straight toward Lucas. I didn't hear what she said, but the girl's face was flushed as she handed him paper and a pen. Lucas took them and signed his name. The two of them took a photo together. From start to finish, Lucas wore a warm smile on his face. I started to doubt myself, wondering if I had recognized the wrong person. Xiao Tang, let's go ask for an autograph too. Xiao Wang was eager to try. Huh? I blinked slowly, a bit slow to react. I'm too shy to go alone. Please, please. But the event is about to start. Xiao Wang didn't pick up on my subtle refusal. There's still 20 minutes left, sis. I've got the paper and pen ready. After saying that, she grabbed my hand and rushed forward. Wait. My words were drowned out. I never imagined that 8 years later, Lucas and I would be standing face to face like this. I held the camera in my hands, my fingertips turning white from the pressure. Compared to my nervousness, Lucas only glanced at me briefly. Then he turned his head to listen carefully to Xiao Wang. Just like that day in the elevator. He took the 2 postcards from Xiao Wang's hands. Can Prof sign them? Lucas curved his eyes and spoke softly, of course. Xiao Wang's eyes lit up as she told him her name and added a blessing. The atmosphere was harmonious. The crystal chandelier above my head was a bit dazzling, so I raised my hand to block it. Then I met a pair of clear eyes. What's your name, miss? Lucas asked. I remained silent for a few seconds, staring at him. In those narrow eyes, there was nothing but curiosity. Xia Tang, my name is Xia Tang. He lowered his eyelids and continued signing. His sleeve rolled up a little. The rose tattoo on his right wrist was gone, replaced by a red spot. He had washed off the tattoo. Almost instinctively, I shifted my gaze to his left hand. He was wearing a watch, so I couldn't see it. He probably washed that off too. Professor Song, it's the Tang from Camellia, not the Tang from Candy. Xiao Wang scratched his head awkwardly and reminded him. Lucas paused for a moment, then smiled apologetically at me. Sorry, Miss Xia, I'll fix it. At that moment, I finally realized that Lucas had done it on purpose. After the banquet, I stood alone outside the hotel waiting for a car. In the dim light, I pulled the postcard out of my pocket. To Xia Tang. The character Tang was crossed out. Replaced with Tang. Below was the man's signature, Lucas. The handwriting was neat and decisive. Lucas, a painter who had gained some fame in recent years. His paintings were vibrant in color and delicate in brushwork. As the saying goes, the art reflects the artist. Lucas himself was kind-hearted, humble, and polite. Over the years, he had donated all his earnings from painting to charity, not keeping a single penny for himself. Xiao Wang couldn't stop praising him. Polite and well-mannered. If someone had described Lucas with these words 8 years ago, I would have thought they were crazy. The cold wind blew through my hair, and I pulled my coat closer. I slowly recalled the man from earlier. Familiar yet. His meticulous attire, smiling eyes, and calm, peaceful demeanor. I took a deep breath of the cold air and suppressed the strange emotions in my chest. 8 years really is a long time, enough to completely change a person. But it should end here. 3 strikes and you're out, especially when it comes to running into your ex-boyfriend. Half a month later, at Changyu Mountain. December, the coldest month of winter, the entire mountain covered in snow. In the freezing cold, Cece had a heating pad stuck to the back of her phone, looking serious. Inside information, the vice president of Hiching is also vacationing at this ski resort. If we can get close to him. Aren't you here to accompany me on vacation? I interrupted her. She gave me a disdainful look. Even on vacation, you have to work. Last year, old Zhang's studio director met that vice president at the golf course, just chatted for a few minutes, and the next month, they secured investment from Hiching. We can't let them beat us. I sighed. I pulled back the curtain of the restaurant and walked in. Seeing Ethan was unexpected. Xiao here? You're here too? In the hotel corridor, Ethan looked at me with a surprised expression. I greeted him calmly, long time no see. She followed from behind. Upon recognizing Ethan, she looked surprised. Tang Tang, do you know Fu Zong? Fu Zong? Ethan nodded slightly. Yes, that's me. I caught Shishi's confused expression and realized what was going on. Then I couldn't help but laugh. I thought it was Vice President, but it turned out to be Fuzong. Ethan understood my tongue twister and smiled. It is indeed Vice President. He looked past me, tilted his chin slightly, and said, "He's right behind you." I froze. I turned around instinctively. A man in a black hoodie was standing 10 steps away. Lucas was wearing a mask, his hands in his pockets. The warm yellow light fell on his eyebrows and eyes, unable to dispel the coldness. There really are such coincidences in this world. Lucas walked past me. The scent of absinthe. "Excuse me, did I interrupt your old friends catching up?" His voice was hoarse, half his face hidden under the mask, his expression unclear. Without thinking, I spoke. "No, you didn't interrupt." Shishi gave me a strange look. "As long as you're not." Lucas nodded and turned to Ethan. "We've chatted enough. Let's go." After they left, I stood there for a long time. Shishi kept asking me how I knew Ethan. And that I knew Song Zong from Haching. And that I knew Lucas. I asked her how she figured that out. She said, "It's the atmosphere. I can't put it into words, but I've met a lot of people, and I'm not wrong." Ethan and the others were a group of over 10 friends who had come together. They were all lively and outgoing young people. Over the next few days, Shishi fully demonstrated her social skills. Soon, she had become familiar with everyone in their circle. Except for Lucas. He seemed to be there just for skiing. He was wearing a full black ski suit, layered 3 times, yet it didn't look bulky. He stood tall and straight, like a cold pine tree in the snow. He kept to himself, separate from the crowd. These days, he would ski a few laps alone on the slope, then return to the hotel to rest. Occasionally, Ethan would go over to chat with him for a moment. He would push his ski goggles down on his helmet, revealing a pair of narrow, cold eyes. This strong sense of detachment seemed to transform him back into the Lucas of 18. I really couldn't figure him out at all. Cece, on the other hand, was full of energy every day. Because among that group of people was Tyler. A rising star in the entertainment industry. An unexpected surprise. Cece wanted to do a small interview with him and had been studying how to build a good relationship with him these past few days. During the day while skiing, I scanned the area around me. I didn't see any familiar faces. Didn't they come today? I was a bit distracted. My feet were on the skis. When I started, I lost control and started to fall sideways. I've fallen many times in the past few days, so I instinctively hugged my head. The pain I expected didn't come. Instead, I fell into a cold embrace. The scent of wormwood. Almost instantly, I realized who it was. My whole body stiffened, and I kept my hands around my head. How many times do I have to fall? I froze for a moment, recognizing the familiar tone. I looked up. The man's face was completely hidden. My reflection was visible in his dark goggles. My neck warmer had slipped down, revealing my face, which was red from the cold. I looked a bit disheveled. "Lucas?" He tried to let go of me. "You've got the wrong person." It was -11 degrees Celsius. It seemed as if Lucas's gentle personality had been frozen solid. I couldn't stand steady. I clung to his arm, very lightly, and he could have easily shaken me off. He lowered his head and looked at me through his goggles. How long was he going to keep this up? His words were vague, devoid of any emotion. We both knew exactly what was going on. The biting cold seeped into my lungs. I let go of his arm. That evening, Cece and I went into a restaurant. As the new year approached, the shop was decorated with red lanterns, spring couplets, and paper cutouts. The place was crowded with customers, the noise adding to the festive atmosphere. As we were about to leave, we ran into Ethan. He asked, "Coming for dinner?" "Yeah, but there's no room in the restaurant." Cece was searching for other restaurants nearby on her phone. "You can eat with us." Huh? Ethan said they were leaving the day after tomorrow and had booked a private room for a dinner party tonight. "Is Tyler there?" Cece's eyes lit up at the mention of his name. Ethan smiled wryly. He is. Cece leaned close to my ear. Great, I'll definitely get Tyler's WeChat tonight. The private room was filled with steam. Everyone welcomed Cece and me. But I didn't expect Lucas to be there. He sat at the head of the round table, looking cold and indifferent. Our seats were far apart. After sitting down, my gaze was drawn to a flash of red. Tyler had red-brown hair and a silver lip piercing on his lower lip, giving him a cold, hard look. Someone toasted him, and he opened a bottle of orange juice with one hand, saying lazily, "My mom doesn't let me drink." He didn't look like a child who listened to his mother at all. Everyone was wearing ski suits these days, and this was the first time I'd seen his true face. He was such a different person, exuding rebellion and arrogance from head to toe. I looked at him a few more times. When I finally looked away, I unexpectedly met another pair of familiar eyes. The next second, Lucas shifted his gaze without any emotion, breaking the connection instantly. I clenched my fingers and poured myself a drink. Halfway through eating, someone suggested playing a game. Even the wealthy young men at a dinner party played simple games. Truth or dare. The only difference was that you could only choose dare. After a few rounds, the atmosphere in the private room grew lively. Things like staring at someone for 20 seconds, hugging for a minute, sending a message to your ex-girlfriend asking her to get back together. I watched with great interest. However, the next moment, the bottle was passed to me. A few people fell silent. We weren't very familiar with each other. Instinctively, I looked in a certain direction. Lucas leaned back lazily, his eyelids drooping, holding his phone with one hand. He seemed completely indifferent to everything around him. Call your ex-boyfriend? Someone suggested cautiously. All right, I regretted it. It had been 8 years since I last dated anyone. There was only that one ex-boyfriend. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Cece lowered her voice and asked me, "Can you call him?" "I can." I nodded and took out my phone. Everyone fell silent in unison. They watched my movements intently. I tapped my fingers lightly, pulled a number out of my blacklist, and dialed it. I pressed the speaker button. A short beep sounded from the receiver. There was a moment of silence. The next moment, another shrill electronic ringtone echoed through the private room. Everyone's gaze shifted. They saw the owner of the ringtone. Lucas. For a moment, everyone was even quieter than before, exchanging glances, daring not to breathe. Lucas lowered his eyes to the screen, raising his eyebrows slightly. Then he moved his fingertips and hung up the call. He held up his phone to everyone. He smiled casually and said, "Sorry, it was a nuisance call." "Damn. You scared the life out of me." Someone snapped out of it first. The private room erupted into noise again. I thought it was for yin good just now. Exactly. My heart almost stopped. How cliché is that? She widened her eyes in shock. Except for her, no one noticed that the moment Lucas hung up, the ringtone on my phone also stopped. When everyone's attention shifted back to me, I curved my lips. He didn't answer. The little incident passed quickly. In the restroom, she was touching up her makeup in front of the mirror. "Lucas is your ex-boyfriend?" I leaned against the sink. "Yeah." She sighed. "Why didn't you tell me before? We broke up a long time ago." I bit my lip and added, "He really hates me now. He said your calls were harassing calls. He must hate you." My eyelashes trembled slightly, and I didn't say anything. Noticing my mood, Cece closed her lipstick and patted my shoulder. "Take your time here. Text me if you need anything." After Cece left, I turned on the faucet and washed my hands. The cold water ran through my fingers, clearing my foggy mind a little. I stood there for a while longer before stepping out of the bathroom. At the end of the hallway, a tall man was leaning against the wall, half his face hidden in the shadows. In a daze, the figure before me gradually overlapped with the teenager from 8 years ago. Cold, sharp, like a dagger about to slice open my neck. It was completely different from the Lucas at the dinner table earlier. He turned his head to look at me, his gaze indifferent. My feet were nailed to the spot, unable to move. A silent yet intense standoff. I don't know how long it was before he took a step toward me. 2 steps away, he stopped. Lucas, you. What are you doing back here? He looked at me and spoke calmly. Such a casual greeting seemed like the first time we had seen each other since we had reunited. I squeezed the hem of my shirt. I'm back to work. Maybe he doesn't hate me that much. Lucas nodded and slipped his hand into his coat pocket. Haven't you dated anyone in the past few years? He paused. Or did you just want to call me? No. My breath grew lighter. I hadn't dated anyone since. A secret hope began to swell in my heart. Then you should go out and find someone. Lucas seemed to chuckle, his tone slightly cold. I don't want to receive another call like this from you next time. In an instant, my heart felt like it had been pierced by a sharp needle, oozing with embarrassing blood. I dug my fingertips into the palm of my hand, but my voice still trembled uncontrollably. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Xia Tang. He must have had enough of pretending. The mockery in his eyes was no longer hidden. He took a step back. 8 years have passed, and you really haven't changed a bit. I took a deep breath and slowly curved my lips into a smile. Mr. Song, who's both a painter and an owner, has changed a lot. Escaping in disarray is probably what I look like. I didn't go back to the private room. After sending a message to Shishi, I returned to the hotel alone. Shishi also came back soon. As soon as she entered the room, she collapsed onto the bed. That Tyler is so hard to deal with. He's been playing games with me the whole time. I have to go back to the company tomorrow, and this guy didn't even give me his WeChat. Tang Tang, you have to keep working hard for me tomorrow. She waved her hand weakly, thoughtfully not asking why I had left early. The next morning, I sent Shishi off in a taxi. The rest of the holiday I had to spend alone. I changed my hotel room to a single. I went back to the ski resort. After finishing my last skiing lesson, I didn't rush to practice. I put on my gloves and sat on a chair beside the slope. In front of me, a girl around 10 years old was struggling to move forward on her skis. I watched her intently. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed someone sitting beside me. I turned my head and saw the bright red-brown hair. It was Tyler, an unexpected person. I didn't pay much attention and went back to watching the girl. Senior, how long have you been sitting here? I blinked a few times before realizing Tyler was talking to me. Senior? Tyler placed his hands on his hips, tilted his head back, and his jawline was sharp and clean. His lip stud had been replaced with a silver ring. We went to the same middle school, but I'm 5 years younger than you. I was even more confused. 5 years? Then you shouldn't have seen me? Tyler said my photo was always on the honor board, and he saw it every day. He wasn't like his appearance, he was more outgoing than I expected. Senior, your motto is cool. I've remembered it for years. Your middle school motto? Near the end of the year, the homeroom teacher asked us to write a phrase to inspire the juniors. I wrote, "May the ants without umbrellas survive the rain." Tyler said. Memories came flooding back. I nodded slowly, like that was the one. But what's so cool about that? That's not my motto. He sat up straight. What's your motto, senior? I don't have a motto. The two of us fell silent for a moment. I rubbed my hands together, remembering Cece's advice. Junior, can I add you on WeChat? Tyler stretched his long legs forward casually. Sure. We added each other on WeChat. As I put my phone away, a shadow fell over my eyes. I looked up to see Lucas's indifferent face. Yen Gu? Didn't you say you weren't coming today? Lucas looked down at me. Ethan is looking for you. Tyler frowned. Fu Gu is looking for me? Yeah. As we spoke, a call came in, and Tyler answered it. All right, I'll be right there. Tyler stood up and waved his phone at me. Senior, let's talk next time. Lucas took his place beside me. I watched Tyler's back. His voice was icy. What, now you like this type? Yeah, it's pretty cool. I went along with his words. Lucas narrowed his eyes. He's not as rich as I was back then. You might not find him attractive. I could hear the sarcasm in his words. But his personality seems much better than Song Zong's. After saying that, I stood up and walked back alone. I wonder if it was because I had been outside too long during the day. In the evening, I developed a fever. I asked the front desk for medicine but didn't take it, instead insistently wanting to eat oyster omelette. I took a taxi to a restaurant quite far away. When I arrived, I found the restaurant was closed. Standing in the cold wind, I tried to hail a taxi to go back. Finally, a car stopped, but another family beat us to it. A young mother was holding a little boy in her arms, looking anxious. "Young lady, my son has a bone stuck in his throat. Please let us go first." Before I could say anything, the car door slammed shut. All right. A bone stuck in the throat is something to be concerned about. I pulled my woolen hat down lower. Walking back should be pretty quick. I walked slowly, occasionally glancing back at the footprints I left in the thin layer of snow. I didn't know how long I had been walking when a beam of light shone from behind me. A black SUV pulled up beside me. The passenger side window rolled down. Ethan leaned his elbow on the window. "Get in. You won't be able to catch a ride right now." "Senior, what a coincidence." Tyler, sitting in the driver's seat, waved at me. I opened the back door. I was a little dazed. Lucas was sitting in the back seat. He had a jacket over him and his eyes were closed, as if he were asleep. After getting in, I slumped over to the other side. The road wasn't very smooth, so Tyler drove slowly. The light turned red, the car stopped, and Ethan tapped the center console a few times and played a song. It was Liang Jingru's love song. Tyler frowned. "Fu Gu, you've changed your style?" Ethan glared at him. "Shut up, kid." Tyler snorted and turned to stare at the rearview mirror. "Hey, senior, you and Fugu were high school peers, so aren't you and Yengo also high school peers?" He seemed to have discovered something new. The air inside the car seemed to freeze for a moment. "Right. I'm too tired," I replied casually, not very familiar. Cough. Ethan coughed twice. "You little brat, drive properly." The car soon arrived at the hotel entrance. A breeze blew in. I slowly opened my eyes. Lucas had woken up at some point and didn't react when he saw me. He didn't get out of the car either. He turned his head to look out the window at the silent night sky. I shook my drowsy head and opened the car door. My legs felt weak as I got out, and Tyler helped me steady myself. "Senior, you're burning up. Are you running a fever?" he exclaimed in shock. Hearing the sound, Lucas paused in putting on his jacket and looked over. I steadied myself with effort, my throat dry. "Just a minor cold, nothing serious." "Thank you for bringing me back. I'll head back now." I sat in a corner of the hotel lobby for a while. When I stood up and walked out, I found a small restaurant nearby. I ordered a bowl of wonton soup. Eating too quickly, I burned my tongue, causing a blister that stung fiercely. Today really was unlucky. After finishing my meal, I slowly made my way back. In the empty hotel corridor, a tall man stood at the door to my room. Upon seeing me, he strode toward me. "Where did you go? Are you sick and running around like this?" His tone was harsh and aggressive. I blinked hard, my vision blurring slightly. After a moment of confusion, I composed myself and pulled out my room key. "Mr. Song, did you need something?" Lucas frowned and pulled out a small bag of medicine from his coat pocket. "Fever reducer and cold medicine. Take one of each tonight." I didn't take it, lowering my gaze to the bag of medicine, my eyes stinging. Then I sniffed and said, "No, thank you for your concern, Mr. Song." Lucas's eyes were deep and he stared at me for a long time. Silence spread around us. "Xia Tang, what are you upset about?" It was like opening a bottle of lemon-flavored soda. A wave of bitterness flooded over me. I bit my tongue and tasted a hint of blood. "Lucas, do you hate me?" I blurted out without preamble. I desperately wanted to hear the answer with my own ears. "Don't you already know the answer yourself?" As if finding it absurd, Lucas scoffed. "Xia Tang, it was you who deceived me, took my mother's money, and fled far away. You sure have the guts to disappear for 8 years. What, now you're regretting it? Want to come back and play the victim? It seemed like he couldn't stand my melodramatic act. He tore apart the past, word by word, without mercy. All the so-called dignity was shredded by him. I suddenly lost all my strength. I don't regret it, Lucas. You don't regret it? Lucas clenched his fists. Then who are you trying to pity now? He was determined to humiliate me. I don't regret it, Lucas. It was my own choice. I looked at him, my heart aching with pain. I'm not feeling wronged or pitiful. You can hate me if you want, and you can pretend not to know me. I'm not sad. You can't have everything. It was all my own choice. I must have really lost my mind. I was speaking incoherently, struggling to breathe. Lucas' jaw tightened as he silently watched me. After a moment, he raised his hand and gently touched my face. The pad of his thumb brushed across the corner of my eye, dry and warm. Cry? Do you think crying will make anyone feel sorry for you? My head ached as if it were filled with iron, and tears kept flowing, blurring my vision. With great difficulty, I reached into another pocket, pulled out a bank card, and shoved it into the hands of the person in front of me. This is the money I've saved over the years. The password is your birthday. Your birthday. I sobbed softly, crying harder and harder. The rest of the money, I'll save it up. Lucas, I'm sorry. Can you hate me a little less? Before I collapsed, someone caught me. That person held me tightly. He said, "Xia Tang, is it really that hard to admit you can't forget me?" When I woke up again, it was 2 p.m. the next day. I sat up on the bed. The bedside table was scattered with pills and a half-empty glass of water, along with a bank card. I touched my forehead. The fever had subsided. It was clear whose doing it was. I buried my face in the pillow in frustration. I didn't know what was wrong with me. After 8 years abroad, I had been robbed, discriminated against, and faced countless troubles without shedding a tear. Yet I had cried so much over a fever. Perhaps people become more fragile as they grow older. Shortly after waking up, the hotel staff knocked on the door. They brought me a thermos box containing oyster omelette. After that day, I returned to the company. I never saw Lucas again. On New Year's Eve, I went alone to the city center's large square to ring in the new year. There were many people, bustling around the large screen in the middle. I held the string of a balloon in my hand and took out my phone to take a photo. The countdown began, and I was pushed into the crowd, looking up at the countdown on the screen. 10, 9, 8, 1. In the last second, the balloon slipped from my hand. Amidst the chaos, countless balloons rose into the sky, carrying everyone's hopes and wishes, forming a romantic sea of flowers. A line of flower-shaped characters appeared on the big screen. Please hug the person you love most. People around me began to hug each other in small groups. Most of them were with family, friends, or lovers. I touched my ear, surprised by this unexpected moment. Suddenly, someone grabbed my wrist. The next moment, I fell into a warm embrace. Startled, I looked up and saw the sharp jawline of a man. I shook my head and lowered mine, wrapping my arms around his waist. After it ended, Lucas guided me out of the crowd. He took me to the top floor of the building. There were tables, chairs, and sofas on the rooftop. From here, we could see the bustling crowd in the square earlier. Lucas stood by the railing, looking down. The night wind blew his hair. I felt a little nervous. "Lucas, don't stand so high." He turned around, looking at me intently, the quiet, thick night spreading behind him. "Xia Tang, why did you hug me earlier?" He hadn't spoken a word since earlier. The girl I remembered was cute and delicate, carrying shopping bags and wearing a brown knit dress, her stomach slightly rounded. She looked at me in surprise and said, "Sis?" There were no harsh words or sarcastic remarks. In the coffee shop, Luna and I sat across from each other. We exchanged a few casual remarks about our current lives. It was as if none of the past had ever happened. The hot coffee swayed gently, releasing a wisp of white steam. Luna ordered a cup of hot milk, gently rubbing her stomach, her expression serene. She had gotten married last year and was now 6 months pregnant. After a few more words, we both fell silent again. Luna held the cup of milk in both hands and hesitated. My mom really misses you. Should we go visit her? I lowered my eyes and took a sip of coffee. There's no need. Some wounds can't be healed by time. As I was leaving, Luna stood behind me and called out, "Sis." She said, "I'm really sorry." I didn't turn around and left without hesitation. When we're young, we all do silly things, big or small. As we grow older and gain more experience, our thoughts mature. We come to feel sorry for that time in our lives. But only the victims have the right to say, "It's all in the past." I can't bring myself to forgive generously, nor do I have the energy to scold anyone anymore. All I can do is pick up a yellowed leaf on a deep autumn day, let go, and watch it drift away with the wind. A week later, Cece drove me to the airport. In the airport lobby, she took a photo of my back. She posted it on her social media. Time to set off again. Have a safe journey. While waiting for the flight, a message came in. It was Ethan. Are you going to England again? Don't tell me you're leaving for another 8 years. Lucas will go crazy. I furrowed my brows and typed. Lucas? What's wrong with him? You haven't boarded the plane yet, right? I'm nearby. 15 minutes later, Ethan appeared in front of me, panting. I was taken aback. Why did he really come? Ethan rolled his eyes and said, "If I didn't come, Lucas would probably jump into the lake tonight." I found it funny and smiled. Is it that serious? After reuniting, I didn't notice how much Lucas missed me. Then why didn't he come? Ethan shook his head, unable to explain. I told him to come after you, but he said he wanted to give you freedom. This kid has gotten more and more messed up over the years. Give me freedom? 18-year-old Lucas doesn't know how to do that. I'm just going back to England to handle some property transfer matters. Ethan's words made me realize something. Lucas. Has he been doing badly these past few years? At the airport terminal, by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Ethan lit a cigarette and spoke slowly. He said that after I left, Lucas went on a wild rampage. He drank so much he started bleeding from his stomach and was rushed to the hospital in the middle of the night. When he woke up, he insisted on coming to England to find me, and had a huge argument with his mother over it. During that time, he must have been sick, but he wouldn't tell anyone. He was like a ghost for half a year. Later, he started painting, and he looked much better. I secretly looked at his paintings. He liked drawing eyes. Your eyes. My fingers trembled. For years after you left, the company started to do well. On Christmas Day, we had a few drinks with the guys, and he called you. Memories poured out like wet rain, dropping one by one onto my heart. That Christmas, I was at a gathering with a few friends. I was in the kitchen making meat pies. A senior classmate answered the phone for me. When the phone returned to my hand, the call had already ended. The senior seemed apologetic. The other person didn't say a word. I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was a wrong number. I glanced at the caller ID. Then I froze. An unfamiliar number from Luching. I stared at the words Luching for a moment, then saved the number in my contacts. But that number never called again. After that call, he stayed alone in his room for a long time. The next day, he didn't drink, didn't draw on his eyes, and worked diligently, acting as if nothing had happened. But I always felt like he had become an empty shell again. In the end, I didn't board that plane. Following the address Ethan gave me, I went to Lucas's house. The door code was simple, the date Lucas and I confirmed our relationship. The living room was empty. I went upstairs and opened the bedroom door. Thick curtains blocked out all the light. It was pitch black. A blurry figure sat on the floor, leaning against the bed. I walked in and smelled the faint scent of alcohol. As I moved forward, my toes kicked a beer bottle. I called out softly, "Lucas." There was no response. I walked over and pulled back the curtain slightly. The glaring light poured in, bathing the man in its glow. The dejected man's eyelashes trembled slightly as he slowly opened his eyes. I knelt down in front of him. I touched his forehead. Do you feel okay? How much did you drink? He didn't speak, his pupils slowly focusing on me, as if trying to confirm something. Probably because he was drunk, he lacked his usual aggressiveness. In the sunlight, a faint reddish hue appeared under his thin eyelids. After a moment, he turned his head away, avoiding my touch. Aren't you leaving? Why did you come back? I'm not leaving. I whispered to him. I bought you a New Year's gift. I took a box out of my bag. Inside lay a bracelet. A thin silver bracelet with a red gemstone in the middle, shaped like a piece of candy. I had planned to give it to him after we got back. It's ugly. Who would like it? Hold out your hand. 2 seconds later, he blushed and held out his left hand. As I put the bracelet on him, my fingertips felt a rough texture. I turned his hand over. Gamma Lambda Upsilon Kappa? Phi Iota Lambda Omicron? A dark blue tattoo, with a faint red hue around the skin. My fingers traced the jagged lines, and a sour taste filled my nose. Why didn't you wash it off? He lowered his gaze, his eyelashes casting a shadow beneath his eyes. It's none of your business. He had drunk a lot, his eyes were watery, and his voice was low and hoarse, awkward and hesitant. Stay away from me. We're not close, Pierre. Like a small animal caught in the rain. I ignored him, leaned in, and traced the silver chain around his neck with my fingertips. He didn't resist, letting me do as I pleased. The silver chain hidden in his collar had a ring attached to the end. That ring that cost $33. 8 years had passed, and the cheap silver band was now covered in scratches of various sizes. I blinked, and without warning, tears rolled down my cheeks. Why are you crying? He wiped away my tears, not allowing me to cry. I hugged him, rubbing all my tears into his shoulder. Emotions could no longer be contained. Lucas, I admit it. I want both. I can't forget you. I miss you so much. He slowly, tremblingly, hugged me back. 2 hearts pressed together. I cried, and he cried with me. Trembling, we sobbed softly. It's okay, Xia Tang. You can have everything. I can give you anything. But please, have mercy. Don't leave me with nothing. At least, love me. Xia Tang, don't leave me again.